and welcome to Buildings of Tomorrow. My name is Jon Lester, and in today's episode we are talking about building management systems and some of the technologies and the trends that we see in the industry which is changing and expanding the scope of these systems. I'm joined today by Dario Incorvaia, which I struggle with, but Dario is the head of building management software at Siemens Smart Infrastructure. Dario, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Jon, thanks for having me here today. Very happy to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. I apologize about my pronunciation of your surname, but I'm Australian. I don't have the skills sometimes.
In a couple of episodes, it will be great.
We'll be there. I
Right.
agree. Yeah. Thanks again for joining us. In the last conversation, we talked about building management systems. We talked about some of the the expanding scope, the importance of the building management system within the whole ecosystem. The structure of a building. We also talked a little bit about how that one centralized hub of intelligence is starting, as one of the changes within the industry, is starting to distribute a little bit down into some of those limbs. I'd love to continue that conversation and talk about some more of these trends that we see driven by technology or driven by requirements within the industry that are kind of impacting what a building management system is and what it does. So I pass straight to you to give us one of the first examples of some of these changes.
Yeah. I mean, let's start from this analogy of last time that I really liked a lot. And then I was looking at some of the books of anatomy just to get ready for this conversation today. And we see a lot of time that is not true anymore, or it's not the only assumption we can take that they say the brain, the intelligence is just in a single place, which is a piece of software running on a PC under the desk of the customer. Mm-hmm. That was somehow true in the last decades. Now this is definitely changing. And of course, it will take a time before the complete shift will happen. But it's already visible today that the role of the BMS, like we were thinking about that in the past, is difficult now to put it inside a single product in a single place, because some of those functionality that we had in a single place are now available in different environments. They're available already in the hardware controllers that are becoming smarter, or they can be complemented by edge devices that are running on-prem. And then you also have there a nice functionality already available in another piece of software. So that's one element. Mm-hmm. Then you still have the full PC-based on-prem solution that those are already moving from a regular fixed permanent installation on a PC, and then already moving on a kind of virtual machine in the data center of the customer, mm-hmm. or even in a public data center. So even that one is moving. And finally, we have the area of the pure cloud technologies, where it's more about sending data, capturing data from the on-prem, moving them on the cloud, and then create additional value on top of that by leverage of big data, artificial intelligence, of course, building a user interface application mm-hmm. available from there. So that's one element of the shift, which is driven by the technology, edge technology, and cloud technology is already changing the way we see at what we call a BMS in the past. So that's one element of the change, but there are much more. And then in this first element, the connectivity is so important, because the more you connect, the more power and benefit you can release to your customer. And then connectivity, you can also see like a big jungle, because there are a lot of protocols, new protocols, and new devices from multiple vendors that are in many. And then you have to connect them all in order to create a unique value for the customer. That's connectivity is really important, and the easiness of making connectivity kind of plug and play is definitely a key for the success in this market. Okay. Now, another element is cybersecurity. Now, mm-hmm. Whenever we talk about connectivity and then availability of data, also for in our industry in the building, we cannot anymore take cybersecurity as something we do maybe at the end. We try mm-hmm. to make it secure at the end. So this cybersecurity is now part of the design of our solution. We have to build solution since the very beginning with the cybersecurity in mind. So it's mm-hmm. not an option anymore to do it in a second step. It is really impacting the way we design our solution. Because we need to offer to our customer that solution that can also evolve over time according to any new evolution of the IT environment that we cannot forecast now for the next years. No, you just know what is available today, but that changes over time. So cybersecurity is a floating target, a moving target, and we all have to move. And the only way to do it is to have a strong organization behind That's also important that we in Siemens, we have a very good structure because we are structuring ourselves, our teams, our R&D, our support to work in that direction. And we're also changing the way we design our products to take that into account. What is interesting, Jon, is that if you look at the product specification today, we find very often written down from a customer or consultants from the customer to describe in which way you as a supplier are going to, what is your cybersecurity strategy? So this is now part of the way you describe your product. Is not a feature, is more a strategy in it, because customers want to know just in case something happens, just in case there is a new vulnerability. And this happens to any company. It happens to Microsoft, to Google. It can happen to us as well. So what do you do in order to fix it? How much time you need to fix it? How you're structured internally in order to deal with this? Do we have a dedicated team that can work on that? And how can you update my products on site? So all of these has to be visible, and we as a supplier need to work in that direction. So I told you the one element is the connectivity, and then the moving of the spreading of the intelligence on site, on-prem and off-prem, in the different shapes and forms. Another element is the cybersecurity to be there by design, right? Not anymore as something you do in a second or third step. And also has a strong impact in the organization of the company. It's not just a product feature, it's also an organizational topic. And the third element I like to share with you is also the role of the user experience, the way we design our product, which is again something which is truly impacting the way we do the product, and not again something we can do at the end. Now I like to make this example. In the past, the users or the operators of the BMS were, in average, people with not necessarily high skills in terms of computer applications, right? So they maybe they were sitting in front of in the control room in front of our systems, and they were trying to manage whatever was happening in the building, and then of course act in case there is something to do, right? So maybe a set point to change in a given room, or maybe some maintenance activity to start, and that's was mainly what they were supposed to do. And as I say, that they were not really super familiar with working with the software. And because that we could somehow try to train them, so to explain, to work with our software,
so
the way it works.
Here's what you do every day, here's how you do that thing.
Now, what is changing is that the same type of person, they are using every single day, smartphone, tablets for different purposes. And of course, they already come with expectation. Even my mom is able to send WhatsApp messages, of course, and is able to work a little bit with this type of application. So, and of course, you have more application that you run on your tablets and smartphones. Now, to this purpose that now work with our BMS system, you cannot anymore teach them only how to use our systems, right? Because they come with expectation, and they also expect that the other products, they have some concepts they also find in their own daily activities with the smartphone and tablets. So expectation are growing, which means that we need to design our application, taking the user experience, what we call UX, as an important pillar to really be successful. And that's really very important to mention, because it's also changing the way we do our products today.
Okay.
So I told you.
Right. Yeah, perfect. So we've got a little bit to unpack there about changes within technology, which is driving a shift within the BMS scope, and also how it's deployed on site. We talked a little bit about, as we drive that connectivity, cybersecurity becoming more and more important, because connectivity inherently creates risks that we have to manage and mitigate, and that holistic approach is absolutely what's required, not just to make something secure today or strive to be secure today, but also for tomorrow. Then we talked about how we plan this, how we not only understand the requirements and the expectations from the system and the functionality, but also things like cybersecurity, and how we ensure that we build within the design stage to absorb that requirement. And then the last one, you talked about the user experience, so how important it can be. Before we move on, there were just two terms that I wanted to confirm for anyone listening out there. You mentioned a couple of times off-prem and on-prem. So we mean here off-premise and on-premise. So this is the difference between on-premise being something installed on the site, in the site office. Off-premise being something like you described, installed or hosted within a server somewhere, off the physical site. And the other thing I wanted to get your quick definition, it doesn't have to be perfect, but to ensure that those listening have a bit of understanding. You talked about this distributed knowledge or intelligence down into controllers, and you mentioned edge devices. Can you give us a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of what we mean when we say edge device?
Yeah. Well, think about a small gateway component, right? So you have, for example, a building automation system or a fire detection system, and then you want to that provides the standard functionality of those systems, right? Fire detection for a fire system, and then the HVAC controlling for a building automation system, typically, right? I'm simplifying a lot, right? These edge devices are hardware components that can be outside, or more and more will be also embedded in those systems, and are able to mainly do two things. One is they provide an interface to the outside, so that's a way to connect to the cloud environment, for example. But they also have a piece of firmware or software running in it that provide some basic functionality to cooperate with these different systems, linked to maybe a single vendor or multiple vendors. So the edge is something that is able to provide or extend the built-in functionality with more software features, and also able to make a bridge connecting to different worlds, usually on-premise and off-premise, right?
Okay.
That's of course, that's a simple definition, and then you can find much more explanation on the web, right?
Yeah, but I think that gives us an idea. We're talking about, maybe in the past where more systems, they really had a focus just on delivering functionality in the place where they were installed. And as we move towards those edge devices, it's not only delivering functionality in that on-premise space, but also enabling that connection, sitting on the edge or the connecting space between the on-premise and the cloud off-premise approach. So that's perfect. I look into the future and I see that this conversation is going to be in 2 parts. So let's start at the first one or the first topic you mentioned, which is changes in approach, changes in deployment, changes in scope that's driven by technology. How is this technology change shifting the expectation and the capabilities of building management systems from yesterday to today and tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, from one side, I want to start from a lot of opportunities that these technology changes introduce. You mentioned somehow the complexity or of the cybersecurity, which is definitely an important element to master, but it is also come with a lot of opportunities. For example, remote connectivity. Now, having also this edge layer, that is an extension of our system that are on premise, is also giving us and to our customer the opportunity to manage their sites remotely. Either from a cybersecurity by installing patches remotely, that's one element, of course, that strengthen the system, but also to connect and monitor the system from 24/7 from any place, right? Not anymore only being on premise, of course, also being on premise, but being outside the building as well. And then this can simplify a lot the activity around the maintenance, right? Because you don't need to wait to go on site to check what is happening there. The system can tell you wherever you are, and then you can already start your maintenance or investigation activity from the outside, including the standard operation. So this is definitely one of the big opportunities that this technology is bringing to us. And nowadays, with this situation of the pandemic, that's even so important because you can do much more without traveling, so reducing a lot of cost and also keeping your buildings all the time monitored, which is so important.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm glad that you mentioned it, because as we see as this pandemic happens and people are trying to reduce the risk that each individual and also the teams and the colleagues that people have, they're trying to use this technology which which delivers this remote capability. It's not something new for us as an industry, but have you seen in recent times, not just driven by the pandemic, but an increase in capabilities of these kinds of technologies to really make this the time of remote access? This is the time for it to really shine and show how much it can change our approach as an industry to these things like engineering, commissioning, maintenance.
No, absolutely, because now with the pandemic is also clear the benefit, but independently of that, the ability to monitor the site at any time remotely, it gives to the customer the great benefit of business continuity, right? Because they can be 100% sure that someone is looking at that. And this someone is not only a person that's still in front of the monitor, maybe in another place, but also the software itself that is already able to perform also with the edge capability, a lot of operation automatically, so more autonomous handling of the building, and then bring to the right person the information that are more relevant. So this really increased from one side the business continuity, which is what the customer is looking for, the building owner looking for, but also simplify a lot the activity for the service company to monitor much more buildings in a much more effective way, and also optimizing the resources, the people that they work for the company, because they can have a better handling of the skills in the different organizations. So reduce, from one side, optimize the performances of the building, keeping the building up and running at the best of its capacity, more time, and then on the other side, improve a lot the effectiveness of whoever is going to provide the service in those buildings. So it's a plenty of opportunities, and much more is coming with the cloud technology and the big data topic, because we are going to build much more functionality than compared to what we could do in the past with the typical BMS system on-prem.
Yeah, and this is an opinion or a question about your opinion. We talked in the last episode about when you expand the scope of a building management system into all the different disciplines within the building, we say goodbye to that image that many of us have of the past, in a facility management room with 5 screens, with 5 keyboards and 5 interface devices. And we said, when you expand that scope, you have the chance of reducing this down to 1. And even just that relatively small change or simple change can increase the productivity of someone managing a building. Do you imagine that even that screen, that computer on premise, that screen within the facility management office, in the near term or the medium term will disappear as well? And we no longer need, or in a certain situation, no longer need that on-premise management system existing?
Well, that's is an interesting question, right? And there are different opinions around, and I just add some of the thoughts. I mean, we are still also learning and looking at the market and trying to understand the direction it goes. The first thing I want to tell you is that if we say we are going to somehow replace multiple systems and have one, we don't mean, or I do not mean at all, that we're going to build a single product that is able to fit all the needs, right? So these will not work. And that would also be in contradiction to what I told you about the user experience. So the goal of the user experience is to provide the best possible products and functionality for that type of person who has to make a job during the day, right? So we still want to have to bring maybe more information, more connected assets into a single place that is moving maybe from on-premise perhaps to off-premise over time, making the step with the edge device close to the devices. But still, we want to deliver different modules, software module that can do the job exactly for that type of person. Now, in addition to that, we can also say some of those modules that today were coming with the user interface and interaction with the persona, with the user, some of those might somehow be hidden maybe in the brain, so they can be autonomously managed without the user interaction, while some other will also pop up based on the new opportunity we can catch. So I don't see, not necessarily say that all of these will disappear in the future. I more believe that some of the features that you're using today in the standard way might become somehow automatically managed, even with the help of artificial intelligence and big data, while some other will also pop up, and also with an optimized user interface for this type of person. But the power is bringing data, bringing connectivity to a single platform that can also be interfaced with other external systems, and there you can build a lot of modules optimized for the different persons.
No, I very much like the answer, so thank you for that. In the end, it comes down to requirements of the individuals on every site, which is also individual. So it's more about flexibility and being able to deliver functionality in an effective way in a multiple different approaches, let's call it, rather than the whole industry goes from one thing to the other thing and it's one size fits all. I think that's a really important point, because every building will have different systems. Every building will have different ways that they manage those systems, different people that manage those systems, and unique goals also of what they're trying to achieve. And one size can't fit all. It's more having options to be able to work with the expectations and the requirements of those individual customers or their building themselves to fit. And I think, as you say, you add on top of that the additional value of that connectivity. And then when you start to add artificial intelligence and leveraging big data and creating connections across these different disciplines, where we start to add, not just move what we have today, but add more and more functionality on top. I think one of the things I'd be to look at now is, you mentioned before the user experience, and you talked about how customers, perhaps if we go back 10 or 15 or 20 years, not every customer or not every user had experience with the technology where these systems were based. So it was more about training people on how to achieve their daily functions, and giving them a path to a guide on how to do that. And now, as a society, we start using technology more and more. We're now close to 20 years of smartphones, and people are used to interacting, but also used to finding their way through technology without training. That this is also impacting our business. Well, it's great that that's a focus. I think that that's essential. What is the power of, when we achieve this, when we get to the point where we have technology that has a user experience that enables that discovery, what value can that bring to that individual user?
Well, I mean, UX is all about removing any tension between the user in front of a product and the access to the functionality. So the benefit that we can achieve by a super good user experience is that we can make accessible the feature that we build in our product to any users without too many steps in between, without explaining too much, without too much documentation. So this will be immediately available, and because that the value that we intended to generate with that feature also materialize and create effects. So this is where the UX will play a strategic role in our product, because it can really amplify the benefit and the values that we're trying to build with our products. And this is exactly why it's so important. And looking at the past, nobody wanted to build intentionally complex products, so that was never the case. But also with the type of technology that we are using, and again, the skills of the person that were using our product, it was more a challenge in the past. Right now that we do it since the very beginning, as I said, keeping the UX as part of the initial design, or even the thinking, the way we try to design the product functionality. By doing that, we want to remove all of this, and also build even maybe less functionality, because the one that we build that can really generate a bigger impact compared to the past. So that can help us a lot in the way we build the product, in the way we deliver the value of the feature of our product, and even more importantly, the way those features can be accessed by the different personas and really benefit from the goal, from the benefits, for the value.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because in the end, any function you create, whether it's one function or 100 functions, they don't actually mean anything until they're used to realize that value. So I like the term that you use there, realizing the value. And if it's not there to be used, or it's not actively used, then it doesn't matter how smart it is, it doesn't matter how powerful it is, it adds no value for that person. So the UX is not just to remove the stress and remove the friction that you talked about, but also creating or making that value real so that person can find what they need to find and discover what they need to discover and leverage the tools accessible to them to their full potential. I like it. I like it very much. And as you mentioned, this is a huge shift for our industry, correct?
It is, right? Because you might believe it applies only to products that have visible or the front-end products, but indeed this really applies to all the processes of the building of a product and also the interaction with that product with a different part of the system. So the scope is very extended. And finally, you may see the result only in the product with the user interface, but there is that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, understand.
It's really, as you said, it's really a cultural change. It's not just a feature that you add on top of a product.
Yeah, and it's stepping outside that engineering-driven approach to look from a user perspective and understand how can this smarts become value for everyone. Dario, thank you so much. I look at the time. We certainly have a lot more to discuss when we talk about shifting the way that we plan as an industry and how do we absorb some of these new challenges like cybersecurity, like connectivity, like cross-discipline interaction. So I'll right now invite you to come back for another conversation. It's been really, really good fun. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jon. My pleasure as well.
And it's a pleasure for me. So thank you to you, but also thank you to everyone listening. Please remember to like, comment, share on this episode, subscribe on this channel. Keep your ears open because this is only number 2 of what I feel like is several more conversations we'll have with Dario on this topic around building management systems and how much they're starting to expand and add additional value across all of the different value creators and personas that work within our industry. So thank you, Dario, and thank you, everyone. Keep your eyes open for some new episodes, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.